Do you have any maybe pillars of advice around cold calling? I know it's a broad subject, obviously, but a couple of takeaways there of things you've learned over those calls would be great for our community too.
I'd probably say the most important thing is role playing. What I often see a lot of times is that people practice on the actual call, and that can be so expensive. So I've actually role played twice a day for maybe like 6 or 7 years with different people across the country. So I had the benefit of role playing with some of the top agents across the country, Karen Bernardi, Aaron Novello, Hal Swayze, Michael Young. These are all like top agents that sell hundreds of homes a year. So I'd probably say role playing, and then just knowing that it'll take time and that it is something that you can improve. Meaning that, like, for example, when I got started, I wasn't very good at all. I was actually pretty horrible at it. But then I started working on my tonality. I started working at how I presented things to them, how I phrased certain things. And then I just got better and better and better. So with that many phone calls, repetition will actually allow you to become really good at it.
Jose, thank you for joining me for our Thought Leader Spotlight series. I'm your host, Matt Camp, head of partnerships for DealMachine. And on these, we really like to shine a spotlight on industry experts like yourself to hear your inspiring stories and to educate our audience on how you see the world evolving. So today, really excited to welcome on Jose Luis Morales. I know you're a 7-figure real estate agent and then also real estate investor. Ranked as a top agent in California, and you're growing your real estate portfolio. Now you've got over $13 million, worth of equity in that portfolio, and also are an influencer sharing your knowledge on, TikTok and YouTube, Instagram, all over the place, both in English and in Spanish. So really excited to have you on, man.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here as well too.
Yeah. And to kind of start, can you tell a little bit more? I know I gave you a little bit of that bio and introduction, but talk more about your story, especially. I know seems like you're a really big family man. You've had an amazing personal journey with your family's background and the family business and how you got into real estate. So maybe can you share that with our audience a little bit too?
Yeah. So my parents were immigrants, or my dad was an immigrant. My mom came through a program called the Bracero program, which basically gave agricultural workers residency in the United States as long as they provided agricultural work. So that was an opportunity for my mom and dad. They became business owners in the 1990s, literally just two people that came from absolutely nothing, didn't speak the language, didn't have any education, didn't have any ties to money, but were able to, through hard work, build up a sizable real estate portfolio. So I got to see it growing up because I'm the second of the oldest, and my sister and I, where we lived when we just got started to where we lived as my parents grew was completely different neighborhoods. So I got to see what it took to get there. Not only that, but I got to participate in it because from the age of 8, I basically worked with my parents. I would get done with baseball practice, basketball practice, and instead of going out and hanging out, my parents would say, all right, time to go to work. And that's what I grew up doing. I grew up working from the time I was 8 to 23. I worked in the family business, but that taught me so many lessons there. I learned about customer service. I learned about businesses. I learned about repeat clients. I learned about having a strategy. So as I was working in their business, I went to business school. And my parents actually gave me the liberty to apply a lot of the principles that I learned in business school to their business. So it was probably the best childhood I could have dreamed of, like I didn't have like much of a, like not childhood, like did a lot of fun things as a kid. My parents worked a lot, but it was just so many lessons that I learned there. And obviously it's made me to who I am today.
No kidding, man. Yeah. I think the work ethic that instilled in you is definitely obvious that, just from seeing the stuff you put out there and everything you're working on. So that's, I definitely respect that background and upbringing, but I know, and then you got into, being a kind of an agent, real estate agent, and then into an investor. Can you talk more about that journey as well and how you got into, that, on your own?
Yeah. So I got licensed when I was 23. And right before I got licensed, I actually purchased my first property. I purchased it FHA, $8,000 down. Eventually, like a year later, I ended up moving out of it. And that became my first rental property right there. Then as I got into real estate, my broker had me play a game. It was called Rat Race, I think, by Robert Kiyosaki. It's the cash flow game. And he basically taught me, and even though my dad invested very similarly, my dad never broke it down like this, that the whole name of the game was to build enough cash flow to offset all of your monthly expenses. And that stuck with me. So I started buying my second rental property. I think I bought it in 2014. I think I went full time in 2012, so 2 years later. And then I kept buying a property every single year after that. And then the property just started getting bigger. I think in 2019, I bought a 25 unit, and then an 11 unit. We bought 7 units. I've read a couple books on commercial and listened to a couple of people, and they were saying that commercial was better just because you had more control over the value of the property. And that kind of opened my eyes a little bit to just different opportunities and different tax strategies as well, too.
Yeah. I mean, and I know there's probably a fair number of people listening to this as well that are newbies, getting into that first deal, or maybe even are, real estate agents and have that background too. Like if there are people in that niche looking to get more onto the investor side, like you did, do you have any advice there on, how to take that extra step?
Yeah, I'd probably say it just starts with one, once you do the first one, it almost gets a little bit, not addicting, but you lose a little bit of the fear. I'll give you an example. I had a client who wanted to buy a rental property for about 5 years, never pulled the trigger on it. There was always different reasons why it wasn't the right timing or the market was going to crash. We finally got him in his first property, his first rental property, maybe like a year ago. And now he's wanting to buy a second and a third property. So sometimes it's just getting the first deal done and being around people that are doing deals, getting advice from them versus maybe some of the naysayers out there who are saying things like, don't do this or don't do that. I'd probably say that. Also, like an easy way to get involved in your first deal is maybe buy it to live in it, maybe even house hack it. And then maybe in California, you can build ADUs or accessory dwelling units. You can add units and use that as potential rental income, and then kind of repeat the cycle where a lot of people don't know this, but you can be you can buy with low down payment multiple times. You can buy with 5%, 3, 4, 5 times, as long as you have a reason why you're moving from the old property, and you can convert your old properties into rental properties. So it's a way of getting involved in multiple deals without having to save up the 20% down. Now, I didn't know that when I got started. I literally put 20% down on most of my rentals, but that's something I wish I would have known, because I would have bought a lot more properties back then by knowing that strategy.
Yeah, that's why I was curious, like how your strategy has evolved over time, and how, I know you've talked about like, hey, the goal here is to not tie up capital. So yeah, any advice there on strategies to be able to make sure you're continuously evolving?
Yeah. So what ended up happening is early on in my career, I would save 20% down, like $60,000, $80,000. Properties were in the $300,000, $400,000 range. And I would put that as the down payment because that's what I thought I had to put down. What would happen is I would get great properties that would cash flow, and that cash flow would help me with business expenses. Like, for example, I had a property that cash flowed $2,000. That allowed me to hire my first assistant because that paid for half of my first assistants. The challenge with it was that whenever I would put 20% down, I wasn't making as much money as I'm making now. That would starve my business, meaning that I didn't have money to invest in DealMachine. I didn't have all this money to invest in lead generation. I basically ran a very lean machine where expenses were very low. And then I would take that capital and invest it into rentals, which left me so that I was always, I probably could have worked my way out of producing and selling real estate a lot earlier. I'm kind of glad that I didn't, because I learned a lot more by sticking through it. Now, some of the things that I do is I use the Burr method, where I tried to buy something at a discount, rent it out, rehab it, and then I refinance, get most of my money out, and I'm still able to own the rental. And then we add value by by doing accessory dwelling units, but it's a way of still investing in real estate, but keeping your capital to be able to reinvest in your business. Because if you're able to reinvest in your business can actually grow a lot more than the $2,000 that you're making a month on cash flow.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, as you scale like that, as you do more and more deals, and as you continue to get down systems and processes like that, do you have any advice for the more advanced investor in terms of where you see people, easy pitfalls or areas that you might see, the more advanced investor, failing at any point?
Yeah, I would say just focus on building lots of good relationships, and that your reputation is king, meaning that do what you say that you're going to do.
Mhm.
Obviously, like I've had times where maybe I didn't capitalize on a certain relationship at that time, but it always comes back around if you always do the right thing. So I'd probably say just look at things long term, not just like, hey, look, what can I get from this person, or what can I get from this relationship, or what can I get from this house now? And kind of know that if you treat people right, things always come back around. I'm lucky enough that I have a good team around me now. The other thing that I would do is real estate provides great tax incentives. I see a lot of people just flipping, wholesaling, but not really holding on to anything. I actually took the opposite approach, where instead of flipping and wholesaling, I actually held on to almost everything. The only time I've ever sold when I'm not flipping is when I wanted to buy something bigger, like a 11 unit versus a 2 unit. So I would say that the depreciation benefits that real estate provide are insane. I bought a building in 2019 for $4 million that gave me $1 million tax write-off, or $1 million in depreciation. And I didn't know about that. So there's tax benefits associated with real estate, and it's just about educating yourself and being around the right people. That way you can capitalize on those.
Yeah, I mean, and I love the strategy. Like you said, the buy and hold strategy, like that long term, has so many different benefits there.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a newer investor, maybe you're using DealMachine to go
Mm-hmm.
find deals, but you don't necessarily have the funding to
Yeah.
acquire that property yourself. How would you recommend teaming up with others, or finding that funding to long term hold that deal?
Yeah. Yeah. So as long as you've got a deal, the funding is the easier part. The main thing is just finding a deal. So if you get really good at, like, obviously driving for dollars, or using some of the products that you guys offer, if you get really good at finding deals, the money will come. I'll give you guys an example. Like a wholesaler brought us a deal recently. And that wholesaler said, hey, look, I won't charge you guys an assignment fee. You can buy it at the same price that I'm buying it. Instead, let's do a joint venture. We'll split 50% of the profit. You guys buy it, you guys take ownership under your name, and you guys obviously pay us out at the close of escrow. And that was the first time I did that. But that investor is going to make 6 figures. I'm going to make 6 figures. We're both extremely happy. The deal worked out excellent. So I would just focus on getting really good at finding deals, and then just getting creative, like obviously posting online. Hey, look, this is what I'm doing. I'm buying deals, reaching out to people as well too. There's a lot of people that want to invest in real estate, have money to invest in real estate, but maybe don't know how to find deals. So that's something that you can bring to the table. They can bring the money to the table, and obviously you can bring the deal. Not only that, but there's different types of lenders. There's lenders that will fund 100% of your deal if the deal is juicy enough, and there's lenders that will fund based on the cash flow that the property produces, even if you don't have enough tax returns, or you haven't been working for that long. So there's ways of structuring it. I would just say reach out to different loan officers, join different real estate investment groups, and a lot of them will be able to guide you as to what's the best way to make it happen.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, like you said, being able to bring the deal to the table. I mean, don't sell yourself short in terms of the value that brings for people. So, like, yeah, I love that mindset of going out there,
Yeah.
taking action, and finding the deal. I know you touched on it a little bit too, but I think you do a really good job of always leveling up, and
Mhm.
being able to put yourself around people that
Yeah.
are going to help you do that. Like, can you talk about that mindset and what you've done to be able to always be learning and pushing yourself?
Yeah. So I actually was stuck from like 2017 to maybe like 2021, where I was producing the same amount of income. I was producing anywhere from 1.5 to 1.7 in gross commissions. And the reason I was doing that is I kept surrounding myself around the same people. So in 2021, I actually started attending different events. I started exposing myself to different mastermind groups, like for example, like Collective Genius, which we're both a part of, and that opened up my eyes. And I actually stopped coaching with the people that I was coaching in the past, because what I found is that information was no longer helping me. It was actually holding me back from taking it to the next level. So a lot of that information was like, um, uh, uh, stay lean, prospect yourself, versus how to run an actual business. So I started exposing myself to business people now, and that has helped me in terms of growth. And all of a sudden, I exposed myself to people that were doing more, and my income grew by like 500,000, which was insane, because you keep doing the same thing, you're going to get the same results. But if you expose yourself to different people and people that are doing more. So I went from a bowl where people were coming to me for advice. People were like, "Oh, Jose, how do you do this? How do you do that?" Which is good for the ego. But then I started placing myself in environments where I'm the one, like at Collective Genius, and this is my man crush. There's a guy by the name of Phil Green, and I got to hang out with them all day on Sunday at the event. The guy's a monster, and the guy's like probably like 10 levels ahead of me. But just having that exposure allows me to kind of see what is possible. And if you guys don't know who that guy is, he flips properties in San Diego. Tell him Jose Luis Morales gave him a shout out on the podcast.
Love it. Yeah. I know Phil's been in this community as well. And yeah, I mean, he's extremely sharp. I mean, Collective Genius is full of so many people like that that are just, at another level. And I think, collectively helping each other. They have that go-giver mentality, which
100%.
Yeah, is phenomenal. But one question I did have for you as well. I know your background, you've made over 30,000 cold calls.
Yeah.
So I would love for, I know our community, they will often, build their list, whether it be driving for dollars or pulling a list, and then skip trace and then give a cold call to that motivated seller, potentially motivated seller. Do you have any maybe pillars of advice around cold calling? I know it's a broad subject, obviously, but a couple of takeaways there of things you've learned over those calls would be great for our community too.
I'd probably say the most important thing is role playing. What I often see a lot of times is that people practice on the actual call, and that could be so expensive. So I've actually role played twice a day for maybe like 6 or 7 years with different people across the country. So I had the benefit of role playing with some of the top agents across the country, Karen Bernardi, Aaron Novello, Hal Swayze, Michael Young. These are all like top agents that sell hundreds of homes a year. So I'd probably say role playing. And then just knowing that it'll take time, and that it is something that you can improve, meaning that, like, for example, when I got started, I wasn't very good at all. I was actually pretty horrible at it. But then I started working on my tonality. I started working at how I presented things to them, how I phrase certain things. And then I just got better and better and better. So with that many phone calls, repetition will actually allow you to become really good at it. And I have the confidence to be able to go in a selling situation where somebody's like, "No, I already have an agent," or "No, I'm going to sell it myself." And I have the confidence to be able to know that I'm going to go in there. And most of the times I'm going to go in there, I'm going to present, and I'm going to win. And a lot of that came from practice and role playing with different people, and just becoming a student. Like, I actually became a student of the game, meaning a student of role playing, a student of cold calling. And it was a skill that I got better and better at it. And now obviously it's made me millions of dollars, because I've made a lot of money on the telephone, a lot.
Yeah.
So
yeah, man. I mean, I think there's definitely something to be said for getting the reps in, getting the repetition. And, when you get that muscle down, then you're able to think at a higher level and think deeper than just the verbal communication, and understand, the person on a deeper level. So yeah, I think one other thing I wanted to ask you about, I know you speak about market trends here a little bit as well. Could you maybe, I mean, obviously no one has a crystal ball or anything like that, but can you maybe talk about how you feel about the state of the market, if you're changing your strategy at all, especially when it comes to the real estate investing side?
Yeah, so we're getting more creative. So I'm a cash flow investor, and I believe that as long as you're a cash flow investor, you're protected in different market cycles. Some people buy based on speculation, meaning like, well, I'm going to buy this property. Like in Canada, I've got some buddies who buy properties at 1.5, 1.9 million, but they're putting money out of pocket. So essentially, if you're having to put money out of pocket to make the deal work on a month-to-month basis, you're basically buying, hoping that the property appreciates. But instead of that property actually helping you out, that property is actually hurting you. So I buy based on cash flow. So what I mean by we're getting more creative, in California, there are rules where you can convert a single family residence into 3 units or even 2 units. And that helps out the cash flow. So you can take a property that maybe will rent for $3,500. By doing a second or even a third unit, that property can now produce $8,000 a month. Your mortgage may be $3,000, $4,000 a month. You got $4,000 of cash flow. I promise you guys that if you have $4,000 of cash flow, it doesn't matter if the marketplace goes up or the marketplace goes down. There's so much spread in there that it's recession proof. So people would ask me before, like, because they've been talking about a market crash since 2015. Be like, aren't you concerned that the marketplace will crash? And I would be like, why? Like, I've got X amount of positive cash flow. This positive cash flow allows me to have this amount of reserves. Like, why would I be concerned? It doesn't really affect me based on that strategy. Now, if I was a builder building for speculation and the marketplace changes and the marketplace drops, then obviously I'm a little bit more exposed. Or if I'm buying based on speculation, there's a little bit more exposure. So I would just say, if you're going to buy rentals, buy for cash flow, because that protects you in good times. It protects you in bad times, and it actually helps you versus hurts you. And then just, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world where a lot of people say the market's going to crash. I don't think anybody really knows what's going to happen. And like, I've talked to some of the best forecasters and they have no idea, because there's so many things that are going on. Like the government's printing out trillions and trillions of dollars. So it could happen. It could not. All I would say is the time to prepare for a market crash is before it happens. Just have a strategy that protects you. And that's been my strategy since day one. My strategy has been cash flow.
Yeah. You're thinking long-term there. I love it, man.
Always. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this has been fantastic. I know, Jose, I know you obviously put out great content on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. Are those the best places for people to connect with you, or, just making sure everybody can follow up with you as well?
Yeah. So the way to find me on Instagram is Jose Luis Morales. Luis is with a Z. TikTok is Jose Luis Morales 805. And then YouTube is just Jose Luis Morales. And then you could find different content on there. On YouTube, you can find more long, in-depth videos. Instagram, more family oriented. And then TikTok, just a little bit more entertaining, educational type of videos.
Love it. Yeah. And we'll link to all that in the description here too. I know we have free resources as well on scaling your real estate investing. We have an ebook that we'll link to in the description here too. But Jose, really, really appreciate your time, man. This has been great.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me. And I hope that the audience got something of value in this conversation.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So I appreciate the actionable steps you give people too. So, thanks again, and we'll have to do it again soon.
Sounds good, man. Anything I can do to help. Peace out.
Yeah. To everyone watching, this is Matt Camp with DealMachine, and happy deal finding.